समझ नहीं आ रहा अपने सैलरी इंक्रीमेंट का क्या करूं।
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है, अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स के एसआईपी का टॉप अप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
क्या समझ में नहीं आया।
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है, अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स का एसआईपी टॉप अप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
आप समझा।
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.
The United States has officially notified the so-called penalty tariffs. India is being penalized for purchasing oil from Russia. This, even as the Prime Minister in a public speech has once again said that no matter how much pressure is brought on India, India will resist that pressure and there can be no compromise on the interests of farmers and small entrepreneurs. The tariff war shows no signs of ending. If anything, it's only escalating. And another kind of war is also being prepared for. India's Chief of Defence Staff, General Anil Chauhan, today said if the country wants peace, it must prepare for war. He also said that while India and Indians are peace-loving, we cannot be confused for being pacifists. All of these developments as a contentious new announcement from Washington about a new ambassador from America to India, but one who will also look after South Asia and Central Asia, and also reports by a German daily, the FAZ, that Trump tried to reach out to Prime Minister Modi 4 times and those calls were ignored. I'm Barkha Dutt, you're with the Mojo story. How will India react next? Trump's penalty tariffs are here officially. America has notified this penalty, arguing that these tariffs are being imposed because there is a security threat to American interests. India has rubbished this. In the last 24 hours, India's envoy to Russia has said that India will purchase oil wherever it gets the best deal. The Trump administration doesn't seem to understand that this is not a debate about oil, but a debate about sovereignty. The Prime Minister has once again sent a defiant message to Donald Trump. In a public speech in Gujarat, he said that there can be no compromise on the interests of farmers and Indian entrepreneurs, no matter how big, how severe the pressure is. In the meantime, Trump has announced a new ambassador after 7 months from America to India, but he's also somebody who will be looking after South Asia and Central Asia, reinforcing fears that Trump has plans of hyphenating India with Pakistan. Trump continues to make ever-changing claims of how many jets were downed in the Operation Sindoor military conflict between India and Pakistan. This time, the latest number he's putting on the table is 7. In the midst of all of this, a German daily has reported that Trump did try and make 4 phone calls to Prime Minister Modi, and these calls were avoided by Modi. We have no official confirmation of this from the government or the MEA. Let me introduce our very distinguished panel today as we look at this very complex situation, one that has not just economic ramifications, but actually very, very serious strategic ramifications. Former Chief of Army Staff, General VP Malik, is with us. Always a pleasure and an honor to have you with us, sir. Also joining us is veteran diplomat, Ambassador Sajjanhar. Always a great pleasure, sir, seeing you after ages. Welcome back. And also joining us is Rajat Sethi, incisive political analyst, hasn't been pulling his punches on this entire issue. Welcome, gentlemen. I want to start by playing out Trump's latest, even as the official notification comes on the so-called penalty tariffs slapped on India for buying oil from Russia. Take a look at Trump's latest comment.
I'll tell you what, the war with India and Pakistan, that was the next level. That was going to be a nuclear war. They already shot down 7 jets. That was raging. And I said, you guys want to do trade? We're not doing any trade. We're not doing anything with you if you keep fighting. You get 24 hours to settle it. They said, well, there's no more war going. And I used that on numerous occasions. Trade, I used I used whatever you had to use. But we got 7 of them stopped. And the one I thought would be easiest, frankly, was going to be Russia and Ukraine. But that turns out to be some big personality conflicts. It's one of those things, but we're going to get that stopped eventually. We're going to get that stopped too.
So do we have to wait for Russia and Ukraine conflict to stop before things get better between India and the United States? There is talk of a possible meeting between Modi and Trump on the sidelines of the United Nations General Assembly, but there is no official confirmation of this. In the meantime, the Prime Minister is in fact headed to China to take part in the SCO summit. A lot of balls up in the air. Remember, China has just participated actively on Pakistan's side in Operation Sindoor. I'll start with you, General VP Malik, if I may. The security concerns that flow out of this are quite serious. They are quite serious because you have an adversarial China that you can't fully trust, a fraught relationship with America, Pakistan and Bangladesh cozying up to each other. We've seen high-level contact between both countries. We have China trying to use money to extend its influence in all of South Asia. And you now have Trump wanting to have an ambassador for India who will also look after South Asia. So this is not a very, very predictable or a secure context for India. How do you see all the developments?
Barkha, you are right in counting all the challenges that we have in front of us these days. But what you have not mentioned is the kind of strength that we have gained over the years. Incidentally, as far as American sanctions are concerned, or I would say Western sanctions are concerned, we have seen them in the past. In 1998, when we carried out the nuclear test, and I was Army Chief that time, and after that, we had to fight the Kargil war also. The sanctions were in place. And yet, we managed to take those challenges in our stride. And we did what we had to do. So, as far as challenges are concerned, I am an optimist. And I think that India today has the strength and has the political will to be able to overcome that. There will be some problems. As far as the security environment is concerned, yes, but then this is also a churning security environment which is taking place globally. So it's we are part of that global churning also. I think with some deft diplomacy and with our strength, which needs to be made up as early as possible, I think we should be able to overcome these challenges, and I'm quite positive about that. As far as security is concerned, I think we are already on the right path. We perhaps need some more support in terms of weapons, equipment, in terms of money, I would say more. And whatever industrial defense industry work which is going on, all the infrastructure work that is going on our borders, that needs to be hastened a bit as much as possible. But as far as taking on these challenges are concerned, I'm quite positive about that, and I'm quite sure that we will be able to overcome.
You do well to remind us that we have been through worse times before with the United States of America, and I think that is instructive to remember at a moment like this. But you speak about deft diplomacy, and I want to bring in Ambassador Sajjanhar at this point. I think there's a feeling, and Jaishankar said this as much at a recent conclave in Delhi, that Trump conducts his foreign policy in public. The world has to get used to a completely different style of diplomacy. Rajat, whom we'll hear from in just a moment, has been arguing that the very formal style of diplomacy that all of you, fine officers, fine diplomats like yourself, are trained in, it doesn't work in the age of Trump. You need a different approach. You need a different tack. Do you agree with that, Ambassador Sajjanhar, that India has to change to deal with Trump, that India's diplomats have to change to deal with Trump? Or would you say that we don't have to become him?
No, thank you very much, Barkha, for having me on the show. I would definitely say that we don't have to become him. We don't have to sort of follow that same style. Let me also say that it's not only the style that is different, it's also the content that is different. And I think the real problem is both with the style as well as with the content. Because here, when we are talking about diplomacy, you are talking about mutual sensitivities, you are talking about mutual respect, you are talking about mutual trust. Here, when Mr. Trump speaks, then of course, as far as trust, predictability, reliability, confidence, all those aspects have been thrown to the winds. And I think, when we are talking about diplomacy, it is less the style and more the substance of what we are talking about. It might be you might be saying behind closed doors, but I don't think, the berating that Mr. Trump gave to Zelensky on the 28th of February in the Oval Office, I don't think that sort of berating is given even in private. So I think we have to basically, we cannot stoop to that level, if I could, with your permission, use that expression, because
Yeah.
otherwise, when Mr. Trump says it's a dead economy and tariff abuser and tariff king, etc. We could also say something similar, but we don't. And we speak in very dignified voices because, again, we realize, as General Malik has said, we had such issues in 1971 with the United States. We had such issues with 1998 with the United States. Now, if you get down to that level, like it's a street slugfest going on, in amongst
Yeah.
two unruly individuals, then it has repercussions and implications for much longer. But then we
I,
saw after 90, sorry, just last one comment
Mhm.
here. After 1998, we had, in 2000, the next steps of strategic partnership. We had 2005, we had the India-US civilian nuclear deal. And you look at the stage that we are in today. So I don't think we want to throw the baby with the bath water, saying that everything is gone. No, we have to seclude, we have to isolate trade from all the huge areas where we are working today with the United States.
the I hear you, Ambassador, but the problem with that is that Trump yet again has linked trade to the so-called ceasefire role that he claims for himself, not even realizing that how bizarre it sounds, because if there was really a great trade deal in this for India, then where are the signs of that? We're actually dealing with a 50% tariff. Now, Rajat, you hear General Malik and Ambassador Sajjanhar being quite like sanguine, we've been here before, we'll get past it, we can't become Trump. You have always argued, if we can come out of these pictures, you have always argued, Rajat, that the formalism, the old formal style isn't working. Now, we do know now that India's trade proposal is with the White House. The White House has not responded to it. And the trade negotiations, the visit by the American trade negotiators has not happened. Everything is up in the air, except the announcement mysteriously of an ambassador in the middle of this. And there are two narratives around it. One, people who say, oh, he's Trump's guy, he has Trump's here, this is great. And other people who say this is really concerning because he's also the envoy for South Asia. What's Trump up to? How do you see it?
Too many questions out there, but
yeah.
See, one thing I agree that, the long-term effects between India-America relationships would be dented to some extent, but we will find a way to recover. But on the other side, in the long term, we are all dead. So these are the two conflicting things which are going on. We have to course correct. Maybe we see economic value. A lot of economists are currently debating that almost 25% of our exports have a risk exposure because we deal largely with the American economy. A lot of people are trying to belittle it. It's not as simple because the other competing economies will have a significant advantage when it comes to trade. So it is going to impact. Our growth is going to take a hit. 5.5% is the growth numbers that we are looking for FY 25-26. Now, this is a material damage which is going to happen to India's economy. The clear problem right now is, while I stick to my point that we failed to engage with this new Trump administration, but I believe Indian government is waking up. They have appointed now two agencies to do backdoor negotiations and discussions with the Trump administration, which is a welcome move. And this is what I have been saying, that our diaspora is extremely strong. And in fact, one of the only leverages that we have right now is our diaspora in the US. And our diaspora is fully capable, if asked or if their help is sought, to sort of come in between the relationship and try and ensure that certain backdoors can be knocked in order to weather the storm and try to put some senses into the Trump administration's minds. And I believe some of that has started. And I'm very hopeful that these informal channels and these agencies that we have hired officially in Washington, D.C. are going to do that work for us. And we will be able to drive down our point at some stage. So I'm happy on that count. Second is that there is a trade team from the US which is coming down to India. I believe we should have a discussion. We should carry on the discussion with or without Trump's direct involvement or his tariff announcements. That is going to happen parallelly. And we should try and negotiate it and try and find a middle ground. Because otherwise, I mean, India is left with Hobbesian choices. I mean, what on one side, 1 month back, our journals in the army and all were coming out and saying that we have fought to front war with Pakistan and China sharing their data links and data walls. And on the other side, we are forced into getting into a friendship with China, which is only going to be a surface level. So I believe net, it's not a comfortable scenario. But Prime Minister Modi would be working his pragmatic mind, his pragmatic hat to find some way to come in and try to resolve this situation without having to bow the head down. And I believe him not picking up the phone calls, 4 apparent Trump calls, as per the German newspaper, is clearly giving Trump a sort of a pointer that you can't put India in the same bracket as you're dealing with the rest of the world. We are the world's largest country by population, and we carry that heft, and we are proud of that.
Yeah. So yes, indeed, we opened this program by saying that a German daily, the FAZ, is reporting that the Prime Minister did not take 4 different attempts by Trump to speak to him. We also have well-established reporting that the last time both leaders spoke, it was a very, very acrimonious phone call. This is when Trump wanted the Prime Minister to come to Washington on the same day that Asim Munir was there. The Prime Minister, of course, declined, as any Indian Prime Minister would. Before I come back to, how might Modi or Modi government respond? Is this really fixable between Trump and Modi, or has something gone off kilter between the two leaders? Let me play out the Prime Minister's latest statement on standing up to this pressure from America. Take a look.
मेरी सरकार लघु उद्यमियों का, किसानों का, पशुपालकों का कभी भी अहित नहीं होने देंगी। दबाव कितना ही क्यों ना आए, हम झेलने की अपनी ताकत बढ़ाते जाएंगे।
So I want to start with you, General Malik. You say that we have seen terrible moments before, including sanctions after our nuclear tests. But, we live in a very different time. If you remember Kargil, where you so gloriously led our military, our country to victory, the Americans had a role there in summoning Nawaz Sharif to Washington and telling him, listen, you want this war to end? You pull back, go back to your side of the line of control if there are any of you left on the Indian side. But Bill Clinton didn't do 45 press conferences on it and said, give me a Nobel. And I think Trump is just that person. You're dealing with a very different sort of entity. Now, given that, how does India reach a point of stability with the United States of America and not having to, as Rajat said, forcibly engage with China, whom we just battled in Operation Sindoor?
Yeah, let me first take US and Indian relationship. Firstly, I do believe that politically, USA and Indian relationship have gone far too deep in the last 25 years. And therefore, even a president like Trump, he cannot have a permanent impact on that. It cannot be dented permanently by a person like Trump also. And I have a lot of faith. As Rajat said quite rightly, our diaspora has been doing a great work. Even during Kargil war also, they were quite active, I must mention here. So that is one, that it's not a permanent feature that we are combating, but it's a temporary feature, maybe 4.5 years, 3.5 years more. That kind of a thing may not be there when Trump is no longer the president. And our relationship is far too deep, and we should continue to engage. There is no doubt about it. Trump or no Trump, we should continue to engage not only with the USA, but even other nations like China also. There's nothing wrong with that. Now, as far as China is concerned, yes, I totally agree with you that it is at the moment, whatever is taking place, because of the churning that is taking place, certain amount of flexibility we have to show. Incidentally, I must mention that China also is dependent on the trade with us. After all, we are now one of their very large customers. We do not know yet what may happen between China and USA in trade, this thing. But they also have certain, interest in keeping India on the right side. So there again, I would say that we should continue to engage. We should I think both countries want to avoid war. Even China, it doesn't look that they want to get involved in a war. So the present situation of trying to stabilize the border and trying to do as much as possible so that there is no fire from either side, that we should maintain, and we should continue to engage with each other and must remain alert. We cannot afford to forget what has happened in the past with China. So what I would say is that we must remain very alert as we've been has been happening now. We should continue to prepare ourselves in case of any unfortunate incident that takes place. We should be able to. And I have also to say that India has now, moved forward quite a bit. Even from 2020 onwards also, we are no longer in that kind of a situation. Though I have to also say that when the troops are in eyeball to eyeball situation, small incidents can always take place, and we should be careful of that.
Absolutely. Ambassador Sajjanhar, I have a very specific question which pertains to diplomacy for you. The appointment of Sergio Gore, right? He's a 38-year-old man who has little experience diplomatically in this region. He's a pal of Trump, which is seen to be a good thing in terms of the fact that he has access. He's controversial. Elon Musk called him a snake, fell out with him, left the Trump administration. But from an Indian perspective, what is concerning is that he will also be the envoy for South Asia and Central Asia. The last time the Americans wanted to do this was with Richard Holbrooke. He was eventually the envoy for what the Americans call AFPAC, Afghanistan and Pakistan. And India pushed back very hard to ensure that he would have no say, no role, no joint role vis-a-vis India. Now, a lot of people are saying we need to object to this appointment. We should not accept an envoy who's also the envoy for South Asia. How do you see it? Sorry, sir, can we unmute? Yeah, start again, sir. Yeah.
So if you permit, I will, with your permission, very quickly, address one or two other issues that you have brought up. One is about these 4 phone calls that were made, ostensibly made by Trump to Prime Minister Modi. I think it is pure speculation because, we are, as I said, we are not in the business of sort of, having a shouting or a slanging match with the United States, but we are open to discussions, negotiations, talks between the two sides. And that is why we were waiting for this trade team to come here on 25th, 26th. They were to come. We said, okay, the negotiations have not broken down. We will continue. So I think our side will never say no to a rational discussion, to a reasoned discussion. So I don't find much merit in that particular report. The second is on the issue of China. We need to recognize that the normalization and stabilization between the two sides started in October last year. That is before even Trump was elected in November of last year. So, this whole normalization, it has a certain logic of its own. These two big countries, neighbors of each other, they need to have normal relations, stable relations. But of course, when we engage with China, there are definite limits to which we can go because there are huge problems, not only as far as Pakistan is concerned, the support that China gives to Pakistan, but also on a 3,488 kilometer boundary. There are claims by China, 93,000 square kilometers it wants of Arunachal Pradesh. It demands as South Tibet. So, there are limits to which we can go, but to the extent that we can have normal and stable relations. Now, the second point that the question that you asked about Sergei Gore, I think definitely, that is, we shouldn't object to it. After all, he is a very close pal in his Truth Social comment. Trump has said that he's a very dear friend who's helped him in his election campaign, both in 2020, which did not work out, and in 2024. So I don't think there is any point in sort of, objecting to it. But definitely what the message it gives out is that rather than treating India as a sui generis partner, comprehensive global strategic partnership that is there with India, Trump is equating India with other countries of South Asia, which is degrading it, downgrading India to the level of other countries. And to the last point I'll make here, Barkha, is that to this argument that he has the ear of President Trump, Mr. Sergei Gore has no exposure to India. He has no information, understanding, appreciation of India. So he'll really not be up to appreciating the sensitivities and specificities of Indian culture.
I fully agree on your last 2 points, and I'm wondering therefore why you say we should not object, but I think relations are so damaged that perhaps nobody wants to open another fault line. Rajat, how do you see it? How do you see the Prime Minister's public comments? Again, on this German paper, we only have what the paper is claiming. As I said, at least so far, we do not have an official response from the Modi government. The suggestion also is that Modi did not take these calls, not because he didn't want to talk to Trump, but because everybody is wary of Trump's public spinning of a private phone call. That trust to have a private, sensitive conversation with another world leader, that seems broken. I think that's the main thing. So that's point one. How do you see this report in the German daily? How do you see the Prime Minister's public utterances? And how do you see the appointment of this envoy who's also going to be looking after South Asia and Central Asia?
If you look at Prime Minister and his sort of dealing with people, he's one man you can't deal with under duress, and he has shown that time and again.
I think we lost the link to Rajat there, but he'll reconnect. Ambassador Sajjanhar, if I may just complete my question to you and General Malik on Gore. You do find it degrading, you do find it problematic, but you're saying we shouldn't object. Why is that? Rajat's back, but I'll allow you a quick sentence in there. Ambassador Sajjanhar?
I cannot think of any time where we would have objected, to an important diplomatic assignment or ambassadorial nomination, and this has gone out in public. Normally what happens, Barkha, is that these note verbals are exchanged in private, and then the comments from one government to the other are given in private. So if any change has to be made, it is made in private, and some other name will be given. They are never.
But that's the problem, sir. The back channel is what seems to have broken between.
No, the US system is different. US system is different, Barkha, because for them they announce the appointment, which has to go to the Senate for confirmation. So their system is quite different. So under those circumstances, an important relationship, as you mentioned yourself, and we are in difficult times. So at this time, we don't want to destroy it even further.
Rajat, we lost you briefly, so just go ahead. I think you're back. Go ahead.
I was just mentioning very quickly that Prime Minister is one individual who doesn't operate under duress. If you want to put a gun on his head and try and push him into some kind of a negotiation, it won't work. So if we go, and there is a big if as to what the German newspaper has presented, I believe it might as well be the case that Prime Minister doesn't want to engage till the trade negotiations that are going through a proper channel don't reach to some kind of a call where the political decision making has to finally come in and stamp over it. And I don't believe he will just get onto a call, especially after so much water has flown. So I believe he is positioning India as a tough negotiator with a man who self-proclaims that he's a deal maker or a tough negotiator himself. And I don't believe that this is going to go down Trump's way, the way he has dealt with other leaders around the world. Look at the Koreans, look at the Japanese, and it's actually downright embarrassing the way with which these head of the states of other countries and the European countries have been sitting and trying to deal with Trump. I, as an Indian, feel that if my Prime Minister has not taken 4 calls of President Trump, it is something that I am proud of. and I as a citizen is going to walk an extra mile and contribute to my nation's overall glory if push comes to shove. And I believe a lot of Indians will find pride in that. We don't want to get into a situation where we have to bow before the Americans the way they want to set the narrative around. Again, having said that, and I keep on repeating, it is an important relationship. And given the Hobbesian choices that we have, this is still lesser evil than that is out there. We still have to salvage the situation. We still have to break the mold, a very, very structured, formal mold that the bureaucracy presents, to find ways where there can be some common areas where we can very quickly converge on. By the way, Mark Rubio, when Sergey Gore was appointed, he said this is he in fact said this is the most important relationship for US when he was trying to congratulate the newly appointed ambassador. So I believe within the second rung and the third rung in the White House currently, there is a sense that what Trump is doing is wrong. There is pushback coming, and Trump will climb down from his very stiff position. And therefore, we need to ensure that we carry on with the way with which we are trying to deal with. Of course, and using the back channels that we have.
Okay, Ambassador, give me a second. I just want to play out since Rajat made this point. It's less problematic than everything else that's out there. I think that's very important. And China is eventually what comes to mind. Of course, as General Malik said, you engage with China, but you remain careful. We had a very interesting speech by Chief of Defense Staff General Chauhan just earlier today, talking about how India's love for peace should not be confused with pacifism, that if you want to actually have to prepare for war. Take a look.
India has always stood on the side of peace. We are a peace-loving nation. But don't mistake, we cannot be pacifists. I think peace without power is utopian. And over here, I like to quote a Latin quote, which goes like this: "Si vis pacem para bellium," which translates, if you want peace, prepare for war.
So let me actually bring this to General Malik first. The importance of this statement, when you couple it also with Prime Minister's 15th August speech, when I was listening to the speech, the whole sort of metaphor of the security doctrine, the Sudarshan Chakra, the economic reforms, what's happening with GST, there seems to be some recognition in government that we are in for challenging times, economically and strategically, and we have to start preparing for them. Preparedness seems to be, in a sense, the word of the month. How did you look at CDS General Chauhan's comments?
No, I think I agree with you. Even the Prime Minister's speech on the Independence Day, he did give that kind of a hint. And exactly. What CDS has said, I think he's just echoing that as far as I'm concerned. And the other thing is that, what CDS said is that the power is necessary to be able to maintain peace, which is what it is. And I would say even good diplomacy is also possible if you are strong enough. It's the security strength that gives you ability to be able to negotiate properly. So as far as our strength is concerned, our power is concerned, that there is no doubt about it, and we must continue to build as much as possible. Wherever we are lagging behind, we should try and make it up. The other thing that, what comes to my mind is that engagement is necessary, I believe, with every nation. And ours is a very mature nation now. And so there is nothing wrong with it, but we shouldn't take any nonsense. We should not permit any compromise of our national interest. And that is absolutely essential. The whole nation will support the Prime Minister when he's talking about, whether it is economic sanctions. And definitely when Trump is talking of the 25% letter sanction that he is talking of, tariff sanctions, those are nothing to do with the economy. Those are political. Those are strategic. Those are hitting our national interest. He's wanting us to change our basic policies of foreign policy, our economic policy, our security policies, etc. That cannot be, that hegemony cannot be accepted by India. no respectable Indian would permit that kind of a thing or would allow that. So that we have to be careful. We cannot afford to compromise. And as far as strength is concerned, we should continue to build, because that is what will enable our diplomacy to be able to move ahead.
I have one question for you before I come to Ambassador, and then Rajat for the closing word. The rapprochement between Pakistan and Bangladesh, China's games in Pakistan, but also in other countries of South Asia, using money to buy influence. A naval officer, senior naval officer on this program, Admiral Shekhar Sinha, he said, I don't think we're preparing for a 3-front war or a 3.5-front war. He said, we are actually in for a 1-front war, because on every border there is a Chinese influence, whether with Pakistan, whether with other countries. Do you see that the problem, the vulnerability in the East, you have Asim Munir making open threats from American soil about attacking India from the East next. The DG ISPR has said this on record to The Economist. So, General Malik, I just want your perspective on that.
Barkha, I don't see a major threat coming from the East. Particularly, we are talking of Bangladesh. Don't ever forget that Bangladesh is surrounded by on 3 sides by us, on the land. And even as far as the ocean front is concerned, or Bay of Bengal front is concerned, we are pretty strong. So, yes, the Chinese influence and the Pakistani influence may increase in that because of religious reason or other strategic reason. But I can't see Bangladesh trying to threaten us, because there will be very, very strong retaliation, which we can do anytime. As I told you, the vulnerability is geographic as far as Bangladesh is concerned. And I'm not talking of this comparison strength that we have, thing. But yes, the influence can increase, and that can be an irritant, no doubt about it. So yes, we have to see Pakistan and China. They have been allies for a long time, and they've been working with each other. And now, in fact, their security is almost fused as far as Pakistan is concerned, which we've seen during Operation Sindoor also. We have to be prepared for that kind of a thing. But as I said, this is not the time that any nation would like to go to war. That includes Pakistan, that includes China, and that includes Bangladesh also. Nevertheless, we have to be prepared, and we should continue to prepare so that even if it is a 2-front war, we can face that.
Ambassador Sajjanhar, the China question, how do we deal? The Prime Minister will be there end of the month, end of this week, in fact. How do we deal with China?
I think exactly as we have been dealing with, we have told them that, as far as, it's an important relationship, because we are neighbors, and China is the 2nd largest economy, the big military power, getting stronger. So we have to have normal, stable relations. We have told them the 3 mutuals, mutual respect, mutual interest, mutual sensitivity. That is what the Prime Minister also told Wang Yi when he visited him. But we have to be very cautious. This rapprochement has been there, but it has to be a cautious rapprochement, because the problems between the 2 countries are deep-rooted and structural. And I do not see that, at every fora we have told them that you want a multipolar world, but we also want a multipolar Asia, because China wants to be a hegemon in Asia. And that is not acceptable to us. I think our point of view has been very categorically communicated to China. We see where we can cooperate, whether it is in the area of economy, like right now when Wang Yi was there, whether it was rare earth magnets, or it was fertilizers or tunnel boring machines, we are getting those from there. But I think there are huge strategic challenges. Right now, why the Chinese ambassador gets up and says that, we have to stand together against a bully, because China wants to rupture the relations between India and the United States. So we have to be careful of that we have to preserve this relationship. I agree with what, the other panelists have said, that, this is an important, I will say, even a consequential partnership, which needs to be preserved. It serves both countries. we shouldn't be mistaken that it serves only India's interests. It serves America's interests as much, if not more, as India's interests. Both of us have to preserve. Trump is here for some time. He will go.
Yeah.
There are strategic convergences in interest between the two countries, and I'm sure they will continue to determine the forward course of our relations and our partnership.
Rajat, final word to you. One of those strategic convergences was seen to be India as a countervailing power to China. If Trump actually cuts a deal with the Chinese, that will no longer be what Trump will look to India for. India's power will have to come from its economic growth, first and foremost, right? I think, and of course, at all stages, defense preparedness, more spending on defense, more spending on artificial intelligence, all of those things that young people like yourselves also are now working on. Just last thoughts on that. And also, what do you think the Prime Minister meant when he said he was ready to pay a personal price, but he would not allow pressure in this space?
Well, I think he would have been pointing to certain covert operations, which US is pretty used to, actually. It's nothing new for them, to try and influence, meddle into the internal political affairs of other countries. They have done that successfully in Bangladesh. They would want to attempt at every other sort of a wall that is in their otherwise well thought out strategy. If Prime Minister Modi acts as a wall, he would be a target. And I think that is what he is referring to. But again, see, I don't imagine that we have ever been in the recent history been at such a complex sort of a scenario or a position in. It's clearly a multi-front multiple fronts have opened all together. I mean, on one side, you would want to ensure that the Americans do not carry that hegemonic character while dealing with us. But on the other hand, you're seeing that this anti-India hatred is now trickling down into their MAGA base. So much so that it is taking into a different character of attacking H-1B. And every single office bearer in the Trump administration is currently talking against H-1B. The trucking visa has been stopped. The green cards have been cancelled. The H-1Bs would be stopped and reformed. I believe the decoupling between India and America would take a greater pace over the next 2-3 years. These are challenges which I don't think our bureaucracy has ever dealt with. And on top of that, our trade is going to reduce. AI is going to, affect our IT industry in a big way. So on the economy front, on the defense front, we are seeing that this one common front of China all around us, that becoming much more serious. On the Bangladesh front, I don't think conventional war was being talked about. It's the unconventional, this irritability that Bangladesh can create in our northeast and in our West Bengal. Terror attacks can be intensified through Bangladesh. All of those are new challenges. And I believe, therefore, it requires a very deep sort of, rethink around what India should be doing over its next decade. It was some sort of a settled affair for the past 10 years or so of Modinomics and Modi's style of functioning and his tenure. But I believe every single assumption is currently has to be addressed again and rethought through.
We leave it there. There are so many balls in the air that as you jump to catch one, there's another that comes up in the air for you to catch. It's a time for agility, and that's all that I could say. Though of course that's easier said than done. I'm sure the guardians of India's strategic and security interests, we definitely place our trust in them, but these are challenging times and we have to come together as a country, I think, above all, to recognize that. Thank you so much, Rajat, Sethi, General Malik, Ambassador Sajjanhar. Always a pleasure. Thank you and see you soon. It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Voter Story and support independent, robust journalism.